Hello, my name is Kriostix, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Adventures. Case 4, Trial 1, if that fits, but still continuing from where we left off the last time around, as per usual. And here we go. 20th of February, 9:23 a.m., the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Let's go. Well, I never expected this. Who'd have thought we'd be back here again so soon? I did. Just saying. I super did. That's me. We are on a study tour of Great Britain with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible. Well, yes, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing. I think it's life-changing either way, though. Like, life-threatening is the problem, really. In which case, treating it as a research may seem a little crass. Not necessarily, because if treating it as research will help you, like, relax and do a better job, like, to not make it too big of a deal in your mind, that's actually useful for yourself and for the client. Oh, when you put it like that, you're quite right. No, I'm with Susato on this one. I often haven't been, but on this one I am, though. Like, she, I think, had a better point. Good morning! It's the... what was his name again? Mr. Natsume, good morning. There we are. Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot. Yeah, I figured. I thought it was like a... yeah. Like, has he been crying, maybe? The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I've heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. Alrighty. Good teeth, though. And now I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Oh dear. Also, I'm just realizing, give me a second. There we go. That's a bit more like it, isn't it? Do literally people take things so literally? Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsume. I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. Although, well, is that trembling or like a, you know, rhythming about? Really, because I can feel tremors in the floor. There we are. I can't do this. I can't take it. Although, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Yes? I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, neither did I. Huh, interesting. Do you know why that might be, Mr. Sato? I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea. So that all-knowing look on your face is just coincidence then, is it? You know. Don't hide the truth from me! It's Batman. Yes. It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? It could be. Remind me again, why was the Reaper taking... like, I think there was a big mystery of why the Reaper took this case. I think he was more about, like... I thought it... again, details a little hazy. Ugh. Lord Van Zeek? Wait, we knew this, yes? I'm pretty sure we knew this. Why is Ruinosuke surprised? Like, we had a talk with Herlock Sholmes, and he said that it was gonna be the Reaper. And I thought we knew that before that as well. What's up? I'm so sure we knew this. Like, is my memory failing me, but I'm so sure we knew this. Huh. Is that right, Mr. Sato? Now it's time for assassins to sail Indian Ocean. Oh, cool. Sounds like a plan. I should still play the 2D Assassin's Creed games. I super should. And I think I'm gonna one day play at least the Ezio collection, because I have it. Like, I have played the original ones on a previous console, but I have the Ezio collection. I should probably do that. And while I don't like AC3 too much, like, I think it's the worst mainline game, it might be worth trying the remaster thing and seeing what I feel about it these days, because, like, even a bad AC game has been a playable thing to go through. AC2 is a favorite. Really? Oh, cool. I think it has one of the best settings, for sure. My favorite AC is probably Black Flag, but, you know, there's no right or wrong answer here, you know? The important bit is we all enjoy some AC games, right? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Van Zeeks is on the front page of every one. Oh, I'm so sure we had this convo with Herlock Sholmes about the Reaper of the Bailey, and how the problem is that he's gonna be the prosecutor, and he would be a really bad thing for Natsume, the defendant. Like, we had this convo with Herlock Sholmes. Why is Ruinosuke all of a sudden surprised that I feel like we knew that Van Zeeks was the prosecutor essentially from the get-go in this case. I feel it was really soon. Like, I think we had this convo with the Scotland Yard police, the you know, less like detective, you know, and then the one who eats the chips. What was his name? I don't want to say Lestrade, because I think there was someone else called Lestrade as well, so give me a second. Yeah, Tobias Gregson. Yeah. So I think he told us, and then we had a convo with Herlock about how the people end up dead in the end, or whatever, something terrible happens to the defendants who've been prosecuted by Van Zeeks, and that's the problem in this case. We had this conversation with him. And now next day, Ruinosuke is like, what? Van Zeeks is gonna be the prosecutor? What? Like, what? Did the writers, like, fall asleep on the wheel, or am I just not understanding this? Been thinking about where to draw the line with which AC games I can recommend and which I can't. Ooh, that's really hard. Especially because the new ones are so different. Like, the type of game is still, you know, third-person action RPG-ish, whatever, right? But the later three ones are a lot more RPG elemented and very different in how the, like, most mechanics work, you know, in comparison to anything before Origins, you know. So it's really hard to say, because some people love those games and some people don't love the Origins or Odyssey or Valhalla. I like them, but they have problems that I can't really forgive. So, like, some elements of like Valhalla are better than Black Flag, but I enjoy Black Flag as an overall package and design philosophy on average more than I do, for example, Valhalla. AC Origins is a mediocre game for me, and I have no interest in it. They feel generic. I can understand that, but I kind of... How can I put this? I felt that the really terrible monotony of the, like, clearing every single, like, copy-paste camp in AC Origins, that problem is easier in Odyssey because you don't have to clear everything anymore for the achievements, for example, right? And I think that problem is even less of a problem in Valhalla. Valhalla is huge, and Valhalla has so many really, like so many big sort of side main quests, if that makes sense, that the like main story kind of like loses its pacing a bit. But I was never bored in Valhalla. I was sometimes a little bored in Odyssey, and I was very bored in Origins. If you haven't played Valhalla, I feel if you can get it on a good price, I think it's worth a shot, because you might end up liking it, because I think it fixes a bunch of the small issues I had in Origins. It still has some of the issues for sure, but the locations in AC aren't for exploring but for grinding. Sort of, yeah. And for clearing copy-paste like enemy camps. It was not a great time. So, but yeah, I think the newer ones are worth a shot. Even Odyssey, because they are both better than Origins for sure. Odyssey was a case where in the main game and DLC, I had like maybe 230 hours of gameplay. That's a good and bad thing. Extreme amounts of content, beautiful game, and it was less boring because it wasn't that much of the grind of do this similar. It has grind in it. Don't get me wrong. But it's not as copy-paste bad, you know? It's more interesting. And Valhalla is even more interesting than Odyssey. Still very long, though. So, you know, if you can get them on the cheap, which I think you can, I think it's worth a shot. I can't promise you love them. You know, it's possible you'll hate them. I have no idea. But I think it's worth checking them out at a safe price point. I think, personally. Good or bad, I think it's worth trying. And back to the game. Sorry, I just this is my character flaw. I go on tangents and start talking about something. Sorry about that. I knew it. Well, yes, we did know it. Yes. Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday. Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zeek's return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. Alright, I'll take a look at them some more. Been hearing people's complaints about the games. Like, I have issues with both games, for sure, but I think they are by no means bad. Like, the only kind of meh game for me is 3. And I think Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, like, I think Valhalla is my third favorite AC game, maybe. So it's like Black Flag, Rogue, Valhalla, then it gets really difficult, though. Brotherhood, maybe? Yeah. Yeah, glad you've been. Yeah. I had a good time with it, and it's a lot of content for your money. Like, I paid what, 20 euros for it or something, and I played 200 plus hours even without DLC. I realized my phone is a little bit somewhere, so I need to worry about that at some point. The trial of Magnus McGilded. Ugh, what a harrowing experience that was. Man, my lighting is being really weird. Give us a minute. There you go. I believe that that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's. But we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country. There can be too much content in a game. Yes, and I think Odyssey, especially when I did the DLC of Odyssey, that was a little much. There is such a thing, that's for sure. But especially the main game of Odyssey had... It held my interest pretty okay. The DLC was starting to get a little much. I finished them all. They were beautiful and sure, but, you know. So, and another good example was like single-player Borderlands. Borderlands 1 single-player was a little bit long. But yeah, I agree. Like, it has the problem of being bloated. The new AC games have the problem of being a bit too bloated, a bit too big, a bit too large in scope, and doesn't quite focus its big themes. But it's not all bad with that still. Like, it's a give and take of, it's a little unfocused in story, but it has a lot of content to go through, and it's pretty varied, especially in Valhalla. Like, the storyline quests were all interesting to me, which was actually surprising. I wasn't expecting that. The stories of Valhalla are really nice. In my opinion, at least. With maybe the main story being a bit weird, but like the side bits in the actual Viking era I thought were really cool. I liked almost all of that. You know. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question papers are asking, and they are all speculating various answers. Mundane? Mundane? It's the most significant saga of the century to some of us. Give me a super... There we go, sorry. I had to go pick up my phone because I realized my battery is dying, so I just gotta... There you go. Whew. If I went Valhalla for 10, I'll probably buy it. It's pretty like... you could... I actually saw it for 10 euros just yesterday for the PlayStation 4. Just saying, used, but still. In a store somewhere. So, you know, it can happen. And I think even Giganti sometimes sells those at like 18 or whatever in a really good sale. So, you know, I think it's, you know, it could happen. Oh dear, I meant no offense, Mr. Natsume, but that's how the papers are describing it. Well, lest we also forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has caught the people's attention. This is true. But there's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago. Yes, I agree. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. It's you! Do do do! I found Fallout 76 for 7 euros, didn't buy it. Hey, I understand that though. I probably wouldn't either. 7 is like, if I'm having a month where I'm really feeling open-minded, I could buy that for 7 maybe. But I would also like not for like 15 or even 10 would be a bit much because I'm not an online player. I'm under the impression that you can sort of play it quote-unquote alone in a weird or something, like they do claim that. I'm not sure how it would work, but still. And I'm kind of open for some Fallout stuff, so it could, you know, whatever, but I would also probably not buy it. Because I have too many games anyway, and it sounds like a waste of time. Like, maybe when it's even more fixed, has even more content, I don't know, maybe, but it's so likely that I would like try it and then was like, I don't like this online stuff and just like gone. So who knows, right? Who knows? Me? Well, I suppose that's true. Both times it's you who stands against this legendary prosecutor. Also true. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper, Natsume. Or just calm down, Soseki. It's all fine, and you're also wrong. It's fine. Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. I'm afraid that there's really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck. True. That actually makes sense. Thanks for that. Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such frail fortune? Listen, you. I can walk. I can leave, and you can see how it goes without me. Tried 7 was free for a while, pretty boring. I don't doubt that. I have not tried it. I've seen like 10 seconds, so you know. Like when I finished all the other Fallouts, like achievements wise, which is like New Vegas for a bit, and I think that's all I'm missing. And maybe if I've replayed Fallout 2 again, maybe even Fallout Tactics, who knows? Maybe then I might give it a go if it's again €7, maybe, you know. By the least lucky lawyer, but still, I don't know. I don't know. Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Bam! Just true. Yes, it's true that I'm just a student new to London with little in the way of experience or skills or luck. But I promise you this. I will fight your corner until the bitter end, and I will believe in you, Mr. Natsume. Oh, benevolent locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, and he was really rude to me, though. I wouldn't have to help him anymore, I feel. You're not alone here, here with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side. Oh, benevolent non-locum. I haven't checked what the locum part means, but Assistant Miss Mikotoba Esquires. ... I am in your debt forever. I shall never forget this great kindness. Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defense. The court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once. Let's go. Let's go. Alright then, Mr. Natsume, it's time. Let's go. As I said. Yes! No, that's my line. Yes! That's what I say. This is it. My second appearance in a British courtroom. There's a graphic glitch that like flashes like this every once in a while. I'm not sure if it. Yeah, I think it comes through. That's just the game being, you know. And my second trial against the Reaper. You know? Because it's the Reaper and it's to follow the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because this time I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client to the last. Again, I don't think that's the best idea. Not always. Just try your best, man. Just like you believed in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight. Let's go. _20th of February, 10 AM, the Old Bailey courtroom. Oh, it's not the same jurors completely. At least one of them is the witness from the last one. Interesting. And Santa Claus says, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. I want to go home. Yes. The prosecution is fully prepared, and also Batman, my lord. The defense is ready, my lord. The Nipponese are a truly fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London but 2 days ago, a mere amateur. Do you have a point? Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Nipponese arrogance. Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Just-son. After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent. Very true, and a most fascinating, if dark trial it was too. Favorite AC protagonist? Oh, I don't know. I don't think AC games have strong protagonists. Like... And there's also the problem that Ezio has 3 games to flesh him out, which is a really big advantage he has over the others, whereas the other ones have one very similar game to the rest of the series to, you know, make their mark. So I don't really know. I guess I do like Edward Kenway in from 4. That's like he's pretty fun. And Ezio is good too, but I'm not sure if he's my favorite. Like, he's good. I like him fine. I don't know. That's really difficult though. Like, characterization is not the strong suit of the protagonists in AC, I think. I don't know. I don't think I have one. Has an advantage, yeah. And a most fascinating if dark trial it was too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted and his unfortunate violent end. Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public? Revelations has a cool ending. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good, yeah. From what I can remember. Again, AC2 games, and like 1, 2, and 3 are so long ago that I remember not too much about the stories anymore. And honestly, the stories of the AC games like blend together, and they are also kind of not greatly told at times, especially the modern day stuff. Like, they're more about exploration and fun and, you know, climbing. You never know when you might be down on your luck, but I believe in fair play for everyone. Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear. Oh well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fellow. I'm afraid to say, I think it's quite possible that mustached foreigner did the deed. Come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt he did it anyway. I think that would disqualify you, my dude. Sins, hi, welcome. Glad to have you here and hope you've had an excellent day. I could not stream yesterday. I had planned to, but I had spent like, I don't know, 8 hours in Helsinki. Not 8, but it felt like 8. Like, I was outside doing errands and visiting places all day, and I had slept like 5 hours. When I finally got home, I barely managed to eat, and I kind of just keeled over. I could not do yesterday, so I'm doing an unusual Saturday stream because I gotta, you know, I felt I owed everyone a stream because I didn't do one yesterday. So here I am, and I'm happy to do it too. I have a good feeling about today. Yeah, like, let's go. Yeah, hell yeah. Sorry, didn't quite catch that. Man, that Santa Claus looks so distracting. Very well, let us proceed. Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zieks. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with a rising power in the Far East. The accused in the dock today is a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Soseki Natsume. And while our country has extended this foreign student the warmest of welcomes, regrettably the kindness has not been returned. Here you are rocking us like a hurricane. Well, that's a nice mental image, and I hope I will one day be able to rock someone's day by doing good enough content to reach that level. Maybe one day long from here, I'll be good enough. Regrettably, in fact, this student is accused of a most sinister act. Of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. And you destroy expensive goblets of wine. Why? That seems like a crime against culture. A knife crime? I tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are. And just look at that sallow complexion and short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese. I don't, I realize it's time period accurate to have these prejudices, for nationalities and whatever. I still don't think this game needs this. Like, it's Ace Attorney is, I'm, it's not like, like, it's always good to have statements against racism. That's awesome, but it's just I don't think the vibes of this game needs this. It kind of jump like, and they keep hammering it home too. It feels kind of weird. All good. I just enjoyed not having to do anything for my birthday. Hey, happy birthday! Since happy birthday. And all that good stuff. Have a good. I hope you had a good birthday then, and you got lots of well wishes and all that good stuff. I hope it all went great. Chilling and playing Minecraft sounds like a plan. I should also actually play Minecraft one of these days. I have it on Xbox One. And I haven't tried it on Xbox One yet. I played it. Obviously I played bunch on the PC way back in the day, like in the alpha, I think, even. And I played the 360 version as well, which I think I have all the achievements on that one. But I have the Xbox One version as well, which has a completely different set of achievements. And I think I could have a good time. Should I stream Minecraft one of these days? Huh. Would people be interested in watching me stream Minecraft? Like, not like, next week, but like, sometime in the, like, at some point. Like, Terraria did pretty good. I think people enjoyed that. It was a chill time, and people came and liked what I was doing, and, it seemed. No problem, yeah. Come on, let's get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Huh? Sorry, didn't quite catch that. Pray, forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hallowed chalice here in this great chamber. Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please. Ooh, it's the fish and chips guy. Gregson, right? Yeah. Let's go! Awesome! Your name and occupation, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard. Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court inspector? The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green. Oh, come on. I mean, it's still not as bad as the pun names in Investigations 1. Investigations 1 actually has a victim called Dead Man, and I'm like... What do you think thought to be? Like, have you not like identified the victim 100%? I beg your pardon, Inspector. Thought? Yeah, there we are. Thought to be. You know, like what? Yes, having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now, and she's been comatose ever. Oh. But that's still a weird way to say it, though. Like, it sounded like you just didn't know who she was, though. What? So don't even know who she is for sure. Comatose, I see. But her life is not in danger. Being in a coma, I don't know. That sounds like it could still be very much in danger. I don't know if comatose, that's not medically induced, is safe. You know. Also, I don't understand how that relates to not knowing who she is. Like, if she was dead, they would not know any better either. Like, why, like, you know, the victim is thought to be doobly-doobly-doo. Like, what? Thought to be? And then the, like, detective goes like, yes, stabbed in the back and comatose. And I'm like, that doesn't answer the question of why it's thought to be. So, like, what? Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray, elaborate on the details, Inspector. Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at this street map. Let's go. Calabash Road, Briar Road, Meerschaum Street. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement during alongside Briar Road, a wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles. It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Sounds nasty. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please. A file containing an overview of the case and details about the victim. She was found with a knife in her back and is currently in hospital, yet to regain consciousness. What of the weapon that was used? Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back. Why would you fold it back in? That doesn't sound good. Like that sounds like a bad storing of evidence, though. Ouch, that big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman. Even the scragged-looking Soseki-san, I suppose. A common or garden jackknife, I would say. Rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence. But, do you accept Blade 2 as evidence? Like, starring Wesley Snipes? That's the important question. A large but commonplace folding knife. It was found lodged in the victim's back. Right. Alrighty. Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume? From what we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she is a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have had anything much worth pinching, my lord. I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment toward the victim? I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim.
Yes!
Yes! If theft and grievance had been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way.
Objection!
Objection! That seems a little much. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery. Whoa. That is alright. But your words have soured its hallowed bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here. What? Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. I beg to differ. Not only in this game, but in some other games as well. I played a bunch of Sherlock Holmes games, and they sometimes it's a bit flimsy. I didn't like the look of him, so I arrested him. Like, right, good. That should be beyond question. You know, Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nipponese student. Yes, sir. Let's go. Natsume's arrest. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to when we found the bloke to arrest him. Yeah, but that just means that he was in the area and not necessarily anything else. Because he obviously didn't do it. So there's some holes here. Let's go. Old books, you say? Yes, my lord, I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident. How immediately? Because, how long did it take for the police to get there? And who saw it happen? Ah yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. The Twilight Saga, for example. I'll take that photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector. A photograph of the scene taken by a policeman just after the incident occurred. A large knife can be seen thrust into the victim's back. You Nipponese are a spineless breed. Oh, come on! Van Zieks, come on! I almost like you, but you're way too bigoted. Just tone it a little bit down. Too cowardly to admit defeat. Denying everything despite the overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Oh, shush, I'm gonna crack the case wide open. Well, I will crack the case wide open, yes. Forgive me, Lord Van Zieks, but the defendant is not denying everything as you put it. What are you doing, Mrs. Sato? Do go on. Mr. Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now you mention it. When we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what had all happened. As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman, wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran as fast as my legs could carry me back to my accursed lodgings. A green overcoat? Well, that's exactly what the woman in that print is wearing. Oh my, a photographic print in full color? What will the world come up with next? Actually, a good question. That is a color. A full color paint picture in, again, I think it's about 1890 where this is taking place. Because I think usually Sherlock Holmes stuff is not quite 1900s. I think. Actually, now that I'm not sure. Because the Robert Downey Jr. one is like 1908 or 1910 or something, right? Or is it? Because they were reverting like World War I, but they only postponed it a little bit. I don't. I'm gonna keep saying like it's the turn of the century, right? But, The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. That does not mean that he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back. There was nobody else there at the time, just the two of them, the victim and the accused. If that's true, A, was the knife, like, you know, shot at the victim? Or was the knife plunged in her already and she'd realized it only at the moment of, you know, Mr. Mustache passing her by or something? Because obviously there's gonna be a hole in here somewhere. A hole in somewhere else than the woman's back, mind you, but, you know, that's different. In other words, there is nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. Listen, Van Zieks, my dude, just listen. I've played 8 Ace Attorney games, right? And I have to just point out to you, I believe that's every case, which is 4 or 5 cases per game, so, you know, 40-ish cases, yeah? In every single one, it always starts with, there was nobody else who could have committed this crime, and it's always someone else. My dude. Van Zieks, you gotta be smarter than this. In fact, a fact the accused concedes. It seems this cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please. Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance. As always, right? Safety save, let's go. Unusually light fog.
Hold it!
Hold it! A light fog, you say? Well, light for London. You could see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much farther, though. That's light, is it? Around these parts, yes. Not something I'd expect a Japanese fellow like yourself to know, of course. I've read that London is famous for its fog. But in my country, people usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance. How quaint. Yes, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticize, as I expect you can appreciate. I see. At this time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm. Whoa. Indeed, the other day I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling. Or by reindeer. Maybe you had an accident while you were getting ready for Christmas. You just never know about this stuff. Ugh. Susato-san and I should definitely remember to stop, look, and listen. I feel like there's vanilla ice or something, like stop, something, listen, or whatever. However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. A fact no doubt lamented by the accused. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. I feel like I pressed the button, but the game was like, nah.
Hold it!
Hold it! How are you able to state that with any certainty? Actually, good question. I was wondering about that. Quite simply, my learned friend, because that is what the witnesses to this crime have told us. So, the witnesses who were also there, my dude. My dude. Ah yes, Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he? That's right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard. That is correct, ma'am. So the policeman did it? Then we must hear their testimony. The prosecution will of course call them to the stand should it be necessary. But wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen. I'm unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by gas streetlights. Actually, Japan is not as little as you think it is. Like, I think it's longer than Britain, for sure. Just saying. You know, not the, the entirety of the kingdom in 1890s, of course, but like of the actual, Great Britain island. Ah. The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which the witnesses... Believes? Not good enough, my dude. Prove it. Quite. Here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness. No. Mankind conquers the darkness when everyone has played Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 with all achievements like I did. Then mankind has conquered the darkness. Yes. Which means we really need to hear those witnesses' statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to. There is that. It seems the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with the testimony, Inspector. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement.
Hold it!
Hold it! From behind, you say? That's right, as you can see from this print. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. And you say this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in a critical condition, comatose no less? I'm afraid so, my lord, yes. She's been treated at Bart's. Bart Simpson's? Is she getting skateboard treatment? Is she getting treatment of eating my shorts? That's an old school Simpsons reference right there. Alrighty. I was hopeful that she'd come around before the trial started so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be. Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of events. Luck is on your client's side, it seems. No. Because then she would be telling us that no, it wasn't him. On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky. Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid. Again, come on. Van Zeeks, just tone down the bigotry, come on. Ugh. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor.
Hold it!
Hold it! Mr. Natsume's belongings, I think you'll find it's all there in the photographic print of the crime scene. Yes, the 3 books on the floor. I would say ground, but I guess that's just me. I know it's like, you know, stone pavement and all that, but still, like, I don't say floor when I'm on the street, you know? That's right, my lord, second-hand books they were. Irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course. They don't look that damaged, my dude. The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand. Easily? Which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example. I don't know, man. He's very clever, isn't he? What do you mean? He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsume had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close the one avenue of escape we might have had before we even knew it was there. You mean to say that the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back? That must be what happened, my lord, yes. Those being a number of old books he just bought, he was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems.
Hold it!
Hold it! The defendant apparently visits a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis. Yes, so I understand. A shop full of old English literature. I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention. The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid. Let's go. The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused's lodgings is this place here, Bourbon Books. Is it because they're dipped in alcohol? Is that why they're called Bourbon Books? A little place on the corner of Briar Road and Meerschaum Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road at the opposite end. Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. Something like this. A street map of the local area showing locations that are relevant to the case. Yes, I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop. Mr. Naruhodo, I think that what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance. Yes, I agree. The most important point that the inspector just made being... Oh boy, safety save, I have no idea. Safety save! I mean... Oh, it's a different bookshop, yeah. Name. Your Books. Hell yeah. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor? What? Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance. Maybe? Oh, well, you know. I mean, yes! Yes! It would be a very important clue. Very well. Not that I can see it being of any greater significance, but please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector. Yes, sir, my lord, whatever you say. Could the man be any more sardonic? Bourbon books, let's go. Present. This thing. R.
Objection!
Objection! If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson. What is it, Sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know. Also, you haven't been eating anything so far in the entire time you've been standing there. That's actually, I think, might be your record so far. And I think you're gonna eat right now, yeah? This is a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident and details the purchase of 3 second-hand books. And you found that in the accused's room, did you? Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it. Go on. This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books. Your Books? Y-O-R-E, I presume? Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books. Huh? What? Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand bookshop not far from the Bourbon Books. It's just that... well, it's such a small place I didn't think the accused would have known about it. Objection! But in fact, that is the bookshop in which the defendant visited on the day in question. Ha! We have cracked the case! It's innocent because he buys books from a smaller bookshop! It's over! It's not guilty! And this receipt proves it.
Objection!
Objection! Yes, for what difference it makes. Wherever the man purchases musty tomes, it makes no difference to the final analysis.
Objection!
Objection! I disagree. I mean, after all, I have the street map here if that might be of help. Oh, yes, thank you. Have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would have almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually at another bookshop, Your Books, it may very well turn out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all. Could that be true? My, it rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility. Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said? Absolutely. It absolutely could be right. Could be right. That's a plan right there. Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment? Well, obviously we looked into that. It turns out that the Your Books, it's gonna be like here or like right next to it or whatever. Well, there. It's just here on the next corner of Meerschaum Street going east. Alright. And there you have it. As you can clearly see now. Oh. I mean, you could have still gone the other way, though, but, you know. My learned Nipponese friend is obviously in training to be a clown, the way he regales us with such witticisms. To your future career in the circus. Grr. You put that glass down now, or I'll put it down for you. I didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. If the accused was coming home from Your Books instead of Bourbon Books... he could have easily gone the other way. there's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. No, I disagree. Maybe he was playing Witcher Monster Slayer and he saw a wyvern just on the south side and he was like, oh my dude, I have to go kill that wyvern because he might be missing, you know, just one for the next tier of like trophies, you know. And then he would just be like, oh my dude, I can go get a wyvern, and he would just like go and have an excellent day, and it would all be fine, and he's innocent because of, yes. That's how it goes, right? That's how the law works, I'm pretty sure. It's the law in all of its glory. There we go. I have cracked the case. He had Witcher Monster Slayer 100 years before smartphones. I feel like I would be a great lawyer in real life. I think I would really just like reach places here. I don't know if it comes across, but I'm feeling really weird today. I don't know what's going on. Yes, thank you, Inspector. Ugh. Allow me to reiterate for my learned, if somewhat slow, Nipponese friend. Why do you break them? Come on! Wherever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. Oh, I think it does. I think he went south because he was looking for a wyvern. As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try. What did I say, hey? I've had enough of this now. Beg your pardon? Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that? Mr. Naruhodo, we mustn't give up. But what do you mean? If the prosecution's assertion is correct, the members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty. Ah, she's obviously right. We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully. They claim Suseki-san must have passed the location of the incident on this way home from your books, but leave it. Safety safe, but raise an objection. I think I saw the health bar coming up, so it might be a... Yeah, this could be bad. But I gotta try, right? Try like the wind and go, yeah? The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed. Explain yourself, counsel. Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from your books to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. If the defendant used these streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked. Objection! Objection! Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that that route is what is commonly referred to as the long way round. But we like scenic routes. Ah. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home? Objection counter X, yeah. Well, the answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime. Objection! Objection! But. Haha, yes, I've got it. I have a butt. Yes. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home. I have already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection. That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside, wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home. I don't believe this. I thank you, my learned friend, and suggests that we do not waste any more of the coward's time by wandering aimlessly around this subject. Pray, what say your insightful jurors? What say you, insightful jurors? But even if that is the case, the defense still... Hold it! I agree with Lord Van Zeeks, wholeheartedly and in every way. What? I don't believe it. Does this mean... We members of the jury are completely convinced now. Very well, in that case I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court. Yes, they proved nothing, and that's the end of it. Like, this system is so weird. Man, I'm so glad that Finland doesn't have juries, because it sounds like a nightmare. Like, obviously it's not like this, you know, but, you know, just imagine, like, what percentage of the people in any country that has juries are morons. And then those morons would then decide whether or not you're guilty of something. Like, ooh. Yikes. That sounds quite bad.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
That fifth one sounded very high pitch. The only thing here is that it's so silly that it's kind of hard to take the dramatic moment, you know, seriously. But I suppose it might be intentional, I suppose. But it's kind of like it's so removed from actual drama that it's a bit of a fool's, you know. As I said before, it's kind of hard to write a drama where everyone's the fool, you know. Like, we had this conversation before. It's a fun game, mind you, but it's kind of like it lacks the seriousness that makes the other Ace Attorney games so good so far. Like, we'll see how it goes, right? And people have died, you know. It's that's true, but it's so silly that it's kind of hard to have gravitas, you know. And also, the court proceedings are so nonsensical that it's kind of hard to take that seriously either. In the mainline Phoenix Wright games, for example, like the court proceedings seem like they have a little more gravitas. Like, there's a feeling of drama because you may have gotten a guilty verdict one time, but then it managed to overturn it just at in the nick of time or something. Like, that happens like once. They don't overuse it like they do it here. Like, oh, they're all guilty, and then you just turn them around and it's fine, you know. It's a little, you know, it's a bit too silly to be taken super seriously, you know, or any seriously, you know. And just in mainline Ace Attorney games, at least when the judge is starting to like actually call the verdict in a way that sounds like it's about to, you know, actually end, then there's at least usually been some sort of a case presented with something compelling going on. Here, it's just like, the victim likes to drink milk, therefore he must be the murderer who drowns people in the river. guilty, 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 guilty. Like, okay, and nothing's been like. It's so silly and so early on. It's kind of, it's a little pushes too hard on this, you know. I think it's fun though, but it's a little, you know, too silly, you know. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably. Mr. Naruhodo. ... No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. Reality, yes. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I have to turn this around. Somehow. Those are the eyes of quarry not yet willing to give up and die. I mean, you should never give up and die. You know, rage against the dying of the light and so on, yeah? So I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial. Absolutely! Like, that's why we have rights, you know? That we can wield them, you know? We just... Rights of the defense written into antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago. I turned things around last time, so don't you badmouth your own laws here, my dude Van Zeeks. Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defense's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses. Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with a summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Nipponese whippersnapper and his onkus refusal to throw in his alley. I got a not guilty verdict, my dude, and you were lying all the way in the actual trial, so shish, zip it. And you are in cahoots as well. He was in cahoots. Cahoots, I tell you. Very well then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty. I'd actually love to know, because that like leaning made no sense and wasn't based on anything real. Just saying. Like, they all said guilty because, you know, they think but can't even prove that the defendant walked home with the route where he would have passed the crime scene. Not even proved that, and yes, guilty, guilty, blah. Like, okay, listen, you might want to call it like a mistrial, like right now. For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity already admitted himself, didn't he? No. If he said that woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim. Oh, that's a question. Did he see a different woman? I don't know. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter. So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful. That... Hold on. The fourth one was just like, the defendant must be guilty because the victim was attacked from behind. What? What? I really don't care. Can we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing. No. Your books, yes, nice shop that, but bourbon books? No, not worth a visit. Alright. With only minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear. Yeah, I feel there's a bunch of very, very weird reasonings there, my dude. So we might want to just take a good hard long look at the IQ numbers of the jury and just, like, you know, collectively realize that they are all morons and should not be in a jury at all. Yes? Yes. Alright. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. Again, witnesses! Bring them out so I can slash them into smithereens. I'll cut them in twain. Yes. Like, in twain the Rock Johnson. That's how it's gonna go. You know, it's gonna be good and beautiful. And I think it'll go awesome. That's how we do it in the court of law when I'm around. Yes. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. I just had this weird thought, like maybe one of the jury people like dropped a hint that it was a different woman he saw or something. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. That's not really weird if you panic when you see someone, you know, being stabbed and run. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already. No, you actually don't, Santa. Listen, I realize you probably just sniff too much of the paints that your elves use to make toys, you know? I realize you've probably done some really bad stuff to your nerve endings in the brain. I realize it's, you know, the neurons are old and not firing anymore. But you have no grounds, and the only ample thing you have is your beard. So zip it. Yes. Oh dear, even the judge appears convinced of Miss Natsume's guilt now. The judge doesn't decide if he's guilty, though, so... why did he have to run away like that? He panicked! Ruinosuke, come on. I'm not a big fan of Natsume's character either, but, I mean, surely you would run from a stabbing. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, you don't go suplexing the person who stabs people. Like, that's not healthy. And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? Well, maybe it was Batman. This is impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense? No, call for the witnesses, cut them in twain, like Twain the Rock Johnson, and it's fine. Exclamation fine. See? There we are. It'll be fine. Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If we want to force the trial to continue... Yes, I know. I have to turn the tide. I must make jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them at least. Exactly. You have no choice but to forge forward. You have the floor, Counsel. Begin your Summation Examination. Yes, my lord. He examines his face with his palms. I just need to keep this trial going somehow, whatever it takes. Come on, Ruinosuke, you can do it. The defense's rebuttal. Okay. So now it's all the same statements again. So what doesn't work? So admitted. If you said that a woman in green gloves was a victim, man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter. So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful. Do I just press them first? Because I'm not seeing anything obvious here.
Hold it!
Hold it! Excuse me, but aren't you the liar-in-chief? Yes, that's right. I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago and lied your ass off. You lied so hard, your mustache probably dropped to the floor. You lied so much. You're a liar and a charlatan, and in cahoots with evil. Yes, in cahoots, I tell you. Yes, I had a feeling I knew your face, or the sight of it anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you? That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London to work. And it was all going swimmingly until you started fossicking around. Bruce Fairplay was a man of repute. You went into debt and you lied in court. That's all you, Bruce, my dude, Cahoots. Bruce Cahoots is what I call you. Cahoots, I tell you. Sorry? Don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. Also, that means you should be immediately stricken out of this courtroom and of the jury and never be here again, because you are a biased, bad faith juror. I believe that is against the law. And all that good stuff, so. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals, because you were once. Perjury is a crime. You committed perjury. That is a felony. Jail time, yes. Oh well, you know, water under the bridge, and you committed a felony, so yeah. Now there's all sorts of rumors buzzing around, and the police have been badgering me non-stop. Well, they should! You belong in jail! Crimes, my dude! Lying in court, in witness stand, that's a crime! If I could turn back the clock. Well, anyway, I don't know about the Hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. You shouldn't be, because you committed a felony and you should be in jail. And free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't. You are guilty though, so jail, yes. Just saying. Ah, thank goodness. Alright, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind given our awkward history. Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. First now. Maybe Fairplay ate him. He seems so weird he might have. Okay, if he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why can it only have been victim? This is interesting.
Hold it!
Hold it! You're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing a green overcoat walking ahead of him. I'm wondering. Well, quite. That's precisely my point. Clearly that someone wearing green was the victim. Was she, though? And clearly that funny little Nepalese man with the disturbing moustache is the culprit. But let us not forget, madam, the defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman. Why, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. No it's not, because she's not dead, and that's not a murder charge then. I believe that is not life over. Theodora, hi, welcome. I hope you've had an excellent day, and glad to have you here. And I'm honored that you feel like coming to see my bumbling in the courtroom and me just squeezing the juries to try to just like get some sense of reality out of them. Hoping for the best here. Hello. The man is obviously a liver-faced coward. Liver-faced? Might be life over as in ruined reputation. This is my grand knowledge of questionable historic fantasy. It could be. I'm fine, how are you? I'm a very mixed bag. I feel quite weird, and I've had rough pains and so on. But I did find some really good movies, and I found some stuff on the flea market. It was extremely cheap, so I managed to find a moment when I spent my little amount of money in a very smart way in getting a lot of excellent movies for a song. Like I got Parasite, the movie, €1 DVD. One, for example. And Blade Runner, the Blu-ray final cut, €1.50. That is just you spend money to earn all the culture points, you know? Tiny bit of money for a lot of gain of movie. Mwah. Meaning that whenever I get any money from the Twitches or whatever, you can be sure I try to spend it very wisely. Oh, old Blade Runner. Oh, I like the new one too. I've seen both of them. I thought the new one was actually really good, but you know, that's opinions, right? I thought it was pretty good because I thought the new one, like at least, it had similar themes, but it went about the whole thing in its own way, so it wasn't just rehashing the old thing either. Yeah, I bought the old one, Harrison Ford movie. The final cut Harrison Ford movie, so it's a good version too, I think. Hey, thrift stores are always one, that's fair. Man, I got stuck on the new one of all the naked boobies rubbed in my face proclaiming how females are wares and nothing more, like over the top much. I think... Huh. I think it was... Interesting. That was not really my main takeaway of Blade Runner 2049. I think it was like a movie about like... essentially, you know... the morals of sentient AI as kind of slavery, and then the implications of creating essentially a new form of life when the androids could get pregnant. It was like a huge miracle and all that stuff, you know. Might be my female self that gets ticked off and understood the sex scenes and like, I'm struggling. Hold on, I'm trying to remember. Guess all I saw were trafficked women, not so much the fact they were AIs. You're right. I mean... it just didn't jump at me that way, but it's you know, we all have our different things that, like, you know, tick us, if you will. That's you know, that's not a, you know, we all have the things that, like, stick out to us. Because I felt that the sex scenes in Blade Runner 2049, like, what I took from them, especially the ones involving the main character, right, was like they were like building on the theme of the previously unchanging and unchanged like emotionally android AI replica character who was starting to find emotions and was like struggling to understand what they are, and intimacy is a part of that like spectrum of emotions in creating things, of like creating emotion. It's an interesting, odd notion that, and I feel there's something to be said about you accepting the replica main character as so human that you focus more on the fact that there just is a sex scene, that it no longer serves a purpose because you just think he's so human that it's actually just a normal thing for him to do. I don't know. I get a totally unforeseen twist at the end at the yeah. I didn't think the gender was really the issue. I thought it was just, but that is true that it was But it was just that the memories and such that weren't, like, he thought they were, you know, fitting and then they weren't. I thought it was a pretty cool way to approach it, although I did find, I thought I was very much rewarded for noticing that one little discrepancy in the storyline about, like, wait, this doesn't fit, and I was very much rewarded in the end. I don't know, it just felt like the main sex scene was totally unnecessary, and they could just talked about feelings, and that would have had a larger impact on me. Do you mean the one with the holographic lady, like, syncing with the replica lady? Was the... yeah. I mean, I don't know. In the sense that... so here's the problem, right? Here's the problem. It's... I kind of disagree in this sense, but it's... I can understand why you would feel different. Like, if I can try to approach this a bit, right? Like, sorry for everyone, I feel like we entered a cool conversation here. I'll get back to the game in a hot minute. Because I feel that writing emotional dialogue is really, really hard. Because in order to connect with a viewer with talking about emotions is such a subjective whether or not it actually clicks with the person who is listening, and whether or not it sounds too melodramatic or too lame or too wordy or too... like, it's such a very specific click on what like talk about emotion dialogue clicks really well or not with a viewer. Secondly, it would fit into the narrative tool of show and don't tell completely, at least. Like, if they have the intimacy scene with, like, establishing dialogue of trying to make us understand how big of a moment it is for either the holograph lady or the replica, you know, and then have it happen is them showing the emotion instead of just, like, telling about emotion. So and because personally I don't really have a huge, like, neither adverse or positive reaction per se to intimacy scenes, right? Like, they just happen and then I see whether or not they mean something. And at least in that movie, said intimacy scene was not unnecessary. Like, it was something that at least had a meaning. Like, it wasn't meaningless. And I'm not sure that you could accomplish, at least with the same spectrum of, like, reaching what you're trying to tell to an audience as well as one does there by just, like, talking about the emotions. Because talking about emotions is much more difficult to connect to a wider audience and, like, to make it really sync of what that really means. Don't remember all. I remember now is how ticked off I was and how I who only go to the movies like once a year when I really want to see something and feel so disappointed. Okay. Felt like they had some slightly interesting dialogue going on in that scene. What little I remember, they boom naked body slowly going over the female body, but a very quick fade away when it came to the male. That could be. I don't remember. Like, that's the thing. You see, when I see the, like, intimacy scenes there, yeah, I also don't remember any, like, I have no recollection. Like, I saw that. Like, I saw the new movie, like, I'm gonna say 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I have no memory of how much they looked at which naked body, because it may sound weird, I'm a man, I'm a straight guy, but I didn't really pay attention to how much they look at what naked body. Like, that wasn't a thing that I pay attention to. Meaning, it wasn't like a huge, female body, oh my goodness. Like, it wasn't like a huge, like, yeah, I want to look at this moment. It was, you know, like I was more interested in the implications of what they were doing in that they were being intimate. I wasn't really curious whether, like, how much of the female body they show or not. Like, they wouldn't have needed to show anything of the body, and I would have been exactly as fine with the scene, I'm pretty sure. Like, and therefore I didn't pay attention to how much they did show, because it wasn't important to me. The important bit for me was that there was intimacy, which they built up with, I think, strong dialogue to begin with. So they explained a bit of, and showed a bit of how important the moment was for those two characters, and then actually just showed the moment itself, instead of just talking about, like, I feel talking about emotions is a very, very dangerous, like, hole to fall into, because it's so hard to pull off really well, if you only talk about it, I think. But again, it's all opinions, right? So it's, you know, I just enjoy talking about these things, you know? It's all good, yeah? Yeah. I hope. The male gaze in that movie ruined the actual plot and story. Seeing at the end twist might have been somewhat intentional, but I feel they flogged in a horse to death for me. Interesting. I didn't... again, I just might be blind to, like, the gender biases of that sort of stuff. It just wasn't the takeaway I had, and I was not surprised by the gender reveal of the plot twist. I was simply I felt it was following the small detail of not fitting answering a question of the plotline, and I was very happy I noticed it. But I just didn't find the gender of it being important. But maybe that's just me being, like... For me, it was more interesting whether or not, like, who the person was, regardless of which gender it is. Like, I have no... Like, whichever gender almost anything is not super important to me. Like, not at all. So I didn't pick up on it even being a gender twist as such, more a twist of who it is. Does that make sense? Like, I'm so blind to genders sometimes, I don't, you know, focus on whether or not some character or twist or important person is or isn't a man, woman, something in between. I saw it when around 4 years ago, understand you totally, but the whole so much naked female bodies on the side, one dead guy, no male skin at all, the way it just looked real, like, yeah. There is the notion that the cyberpunk world, just saying, cyberpunk world also has the problem of being, in a way, like a consumerism hellscape, if you will. Like, to productize everything that society might find desirable to look at, you know? So, it's, I think, you know, the notion of, you know, the holographic female bodies, right? All that stuff, the replica, you know, paid intimacy ladies, if you will, all that stuff is par for the course for the hellscape of consumerism, which is cyberpunk as a world. And I think it's intentionally showing how icky it will be if consumerism just keeps on hitting in the notes that it's hitting now. Like, you know, making the female body into a product, you know? Like, that's an intentional jab at how terrible it would be, I think. That's how I take cyberpunk. That's how I think. That's how I interpret that. Guess I feel for the Blade Runner some people feel about the cyberpunk game. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I can... Sure. Minority, but for me, it's actually too much. I kind of like the empty hotel part of it. Felt like it was about fatherhood, best since it was much less garish. Yeah. The hotel, casino, whatever. Yeah. I feel mad since it was male gaze. Like, why are the holographic things ad things naked? Again, the holographic ad things are naked because it's a hellscape of consumerism. It's showing how bad things will keep on getting if the like consumer and product culture keeps on being on the road that it is now. Like making everything a product because they're desirable to look at. That's intentionally bad. Like it's the movie is trying to say that this is bad. That's the point. I believe. I think that's how it goes, and I think mostly Cyberpunk hits that note. Like the game Cyberpunk and Cyberpunk movies and the notion of a Cyberpunk world, you know. Oh boy. Okay, I think I can continue now with the and the Clearness is mentioned as hell, and naked female body is the wear is what got in the way for me to enjoy or even listen to the story. So I like the old one so much better. At least it tried to be philosophical. I don't know. Like, I think the first Blade Runner had those notes too, just maybe not as much. But the flirtatious holographic things were a thing in Blade Runner as well, just not as naked, I think. But no, I just, disagreements be fine. Case is about our defendant is being accused of walking down the street and stabbing a woman in the back, and we are not believing that, and we are trying to prove that he is innocent. I was trying to have a mystery been even longer. I saw both of them very recently. Like, I watched them both, 4 weeks ago and 5 weeks ago. I think they are a lot more similar than I think they're more similar in those themes than you might think. But again, disagreeing is fine. I just the big difference being, I think, that the first movie to me was about how, about the value as such of the replica as, how can I put this? They're both themed in the value of a replica as a person and their life as lives. But the new one takes a different, a road to trying to go for it, to show that instead of us being responsible for a sentient creation, the new one takes the approach of, what if said sentient creation essentially evolves into a different life form, which is the new take on the similar it's close enough to the old one that I feel like it's attached to it as a sequel, but still goes about it in its own way, in a way I really, really appreciated. Aired on TV about the same time as the new began to run in similar years ago. Yeah. But if that's a lie, as you're suggesting, do you not think he would have been concocted something more? But yeah, more back to the game now. I feel like I've said my piece about Blade Runners, and I enjoy them a lot. Do you not think he would have concocted something more credible? Oh, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. True to say, what goes through your funny little minds. Again, this game and its bigotry. Oof. I could tell you what's going on through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it. That's probably true. Clearing anyone from a crime of being an immigrant. Yeah, I know. An immigrant in the 1890s. With very period-accurate bigotry, too. It is a yikes is what that is. Gotta admit. But, you know, so it sometimes goes, right? I do declare that man has already made the admission. He himself has stated that there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious. No one else could possibly have committed this awful crime. That's what they always claim, and yet there we are. If no one else could have done it, the accused must be the man. Really, it couldn't be more simple. Your argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit. Oh my, you are too kind, my lord. Santa Claus is too kind, see? That went well, for her. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back to the bookshop, not in winter.
Hold it!
Hold it! But you can't deny that there are other routes Mr. Natsume could have taken back from your books. Even from my books. Oh yes, like you drew on the map, you mean. What was it? Calabash Road or something? Precisely. But it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not. Well, yes, that's true. And at the moment, there's no proof that shows he did, is there? There's also no proof that he went the other way either, which is not proving a negative. I mean that they first asserted that he must have gone that way with no proof either. Like, that was their assertion, and that's, you know... The burden of proof goes both ways in this one. And you are not giving that notion of credit, being that you are a bad juror. A dum-dum of a juror. Which is, you know, fitting for the group, but still. Well, that is true as well. And as I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he? Seems so. That's annoyingly true. It is strange, but true. Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I say it, you'd want to get home as quickly as possible. True, but our defendant is peculiar. Let's put it that way. Well, yes. Why is all this true? He's a wandering man, come on. So really, the only thing that makes sense is that he went home along Briar Road. No. I'm supposed to be convincing you here. I've given it a lot of thought, you know. I didn't just make up my mind on a whim and that he did it. Yes, we did though. You all did. Sorry. I mean, if there was some logical reason why he might have gone to the Calabash Road way, it'd be different. Logic and people, you know how it goes. That's what he does when he's done with the kids' naughty or nice list. Yeah. Santa Claus, outside of Christmas, judges people in the 1890s, and because he judges all of the murder people to the gallows, he therefore is giving us the great present of lowering overcrowdedness. Yes, that's Santa Claus's greatest gift to the world. It seems. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case, honest I would. A reason why Soseki-san might have taken the longer way home. Yes, a good reason. Don't imagine we'll be able to sway this young man's opinion without one. For a hot second I was wondering about, like, the background of where Susato is standing. Like, it looks different, but then again I remember that now we're in the center of the courtroom and not on the side in our own little, you know, spot. So the poor woman was attacked from behind. Was she? How dreadful.
Hold it!
Hold it! Whatever is the matter, young man? You're the wife of Mr. Garadep, aren't you? The landlord who rents Mr. Natsume his room. The master's wife? Where do you get your ideas, sir? I'm the maid, you understand? He's keeping up the charade. This is going to be awkward. Oh, sorry. Question, if she's a member of the jury, surely she should be, or has to be, honest about her identity, yes? You know, name and whether, you know, and not lying about the occupation and so on, right? Like, it's a little different than being under oath, but I think it still has to be honest, and she's not. I think it might be a felony, right? Or at least a quite considerable misdemeanor. And she should be thrown out of the jury. Because she's not the maid. Just not. Sounds like it should be, yeah. Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you'd been selected for the jury in this trial, I mean. Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. It was in the letter I received. The instructions were very clear, so I'm afraid I had no choice. I wonder if the identity will come up, because she's lying about the identity, meaning that I think she should be stricken from the jury. I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodging in your, master's house, doesn't he? I think you should press this, Ruinosuke. You should really press this. If you can't turn the jury's opinion around, just reveal the jury to be in cahoots with evil, because she's lying about who she is. You can take her out of the room. That's one less guilty verdict. Come on. Which means it would be 5 jurors. If you can still continue the trial, then you could then just turn 3 people around. It's 3-2, and we're in the clear again. Yes, that's right. Although he's only been in a little over a week now. And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Does Mr. Natsume look like the kind of man who would commit a crime such as this? Oh my goodness me, yes, he's just the sort. What? If he's gonna say he's Japanese, I will punch the lady, just saying. Spending all his time in that dark and dingy room, sporting that unscrupulous moustache. The man never speaks, and don't get me started on those shifty eyes. I don't like this. It's way too... Sorry, I like the game, but I don't like the way too hammering home of the period-accurate bigotry. Like, it's just... Come on. I just don't think the game needs this. Like, especially, like, come on, it's so much. Old and shifty eyes. Never a thing caused of knowing that your neighbors are talking shit about it. Yeah. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something. Why? Oh dear, poor Mr. Natsume. How could people say such things about him? He's just a harmless bookworm, nothing more. Well, you just called him a worm, so... Oh, come on, Ruinosuke, that's not what she meant. Anyway, I'd better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She's said enough damning things already. I don't know. She's just delusional. I really don't care. Can we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing. If you don't care, then leave the court.
Hold it!
Hold it! A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes. Don't get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so is my family's. Ah. Not in the same way, though, my dude. The likes of you wouldn't understand, but a laborer like you can't afford to take time off. Oh, likes of you. Listen. I realize it might just be an occupational swing, but... people just need to live a day in other people's shoes. The likes of you is never a good way to say anything. Regardless of what you mean by it. If I don't work, I don't eat. And neither do the wife and kids. And if I don't work well enough, Natsume will probably never eat anything again, so shish. Zip it. Oh, I see. That must be very hard. I got to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. Work's taken. This time of year, there's a water and gas supply pipes bursting left, right, and center. They're after cheap labor to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn to dusk it is. So, you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you? That's right. Meaning you were there, meaning you're the suspect. Why did you stab the lady? Did she not like your beard? Or your hat? In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just around the corner from where it all happened. By that old bookshop. Hold on. No! Not that by, you know? Meaning that the road the guy could have picked as optional was all dug up. I'm kind of confused as well, Beadora. Oh! That's also true, yeah. Good call. That's true. It took me, like, I haven't had a good night's sleep in 3 days, I think. So my mind is a little slow. And a little weird. Good call. I just caught on. What? Another coincidence. That's right. Meerschaum Street it was. Meerschaum Street? On the map, Mr. Naruhodo, there are only 3 named streets. Juror number 5, I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please. What's the point in that? Can we just get this business over with now? No, never! Please, sir, it's important. We must prove that the streets were in cahoots. Fine, I'll do it then. There we are. Safety save, and pit the thing to the thing. I hope I'm not outsmarting myself here, but I think that's the answer, right?
Objection!
Yes! Because the music stopped. Those 2 statements are clearly at odds with one another. At odds, counsel? Explain yourself. Please don't point. It wasn't me, I swear. Maybe it was. It's the innocent-looking one. I think he might be the one. He could have done it. Yes, he could be in cahoots with this hat to commit the most heinous crimes. Yes. The streets were all running together. Right. What? I just want to get this done and dusted. Well, juror number 3. Oh, me, sir? What do you mean? Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what's been said on our map of the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of second-hand books. And on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Meerschaum Street, making it impassable, which is something I'm pretty sure the prosecution knew, and they left it out, just to get an innocent man in jail. Van Zieks, you're in cahoots with evil, which means that the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Meerschaum Street and down Briar Road. Oh, yes, of course, but what do you think, sir? Well, yes, you can't argue with that really, can you? We must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way. So, the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings. Yes, I suppose he must have. I suppose that must be right, huh? Juror number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, but we see now that he had no choice. Yes! My lord, Mr. Judge, sir, if I may. Yes? I don't think in all good conscience that I can say the man's guilty now. Yes, I'd like to see this trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened. One down. What about you, sir? Ah, who, me? Well, alright then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in, that's what I say. Also, if there's a hole in the street, you might want to fill that in too. There's also a hole in the victim, but that's a different story. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo, that was wonderful! Street management will always have work. Probably, yeah. I guess the real question is to have enough unions and wide spanning enough that the cities cannot get too cheap labor to undermine the actual unionized workers. That's the key. Well, we managed to change a couple of minds at least. It strengthened our position somewhat. Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current leanings are really right or not. Now, if only we could just identify one more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume, we might be able to tip the balance completely. Yes, that's exactly what we got to do. Van Zieks is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent, by whatever means we have at our disposal. We have a katana, you can just attack. Yes. Thank you, counsel. On with the summation examination, please. On with, yes. Yes, my lord. Let's go. I have to say, not guilty at this point, so I can see where this trial goes from here. Your books, yes, nice shop that, but bourbon books? No, not worth a visit.
Hold it!
Hold it! Sorry? Fold it, you say? Fold what? No. What I said was, hold it! What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often? I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. Oh, how old? That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. So, did you go by the crime scene, and why did you stab the person in the back then? And at what time did you visit your books on the day in question? Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon, and it would have been just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. Just before 5, you say, exactly when the victim was attacked. Maybe he did it. In cahoots with a knife. Are you sure about the time? Oh yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry, not after the dreadful time I had. What do you mean? Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on the ice and donked my head. It's always worse after the snow stops falling, that's when it's most slippery. Knocked myself clean out, I did. I really thought my number was up. What if your number is down, though? Wait a minute, let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road. That's right, I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books. Juror number 6, I must insist that you add that information to your formal statement. It may very well be extremely significant. Sorry? Extremely sick? Oh no, I'm quite alright now. Oh, I don't believe you. You should wear a mask, get all the vaccines 4 times over, and get 2 meters of safety distance from the man in the brown hat. Just in case that we don't, you know. Yes. You've changed 2 of the jurors' minds, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, just 2 more to go. Deliver the finishing blow now. It's time to turn the tables here. I wish I knew how to do a Sato takedown. I suppose the words will have to suffice for now. Safety distance from the maid. She seems to be the gossiping type. That's also true. And also, this boy looks like Jack the Ripper, so I'm just gonna just for safety's sake, just also avoid him. Plus, he lied on the stand yesterday, multiple times over, meaning he should be in jail already. Okay. I think I have it, yeah. I think I have the idea. Yeah. What if we make the claim that our defendant actually saw him falling over and not the lady? Green overcoat. Hell yeah. Boom. Green. See, green. And she says green. I think that's the thing. Objection! Those 2 statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning. A flaw? What are you talking about, counsel? Well, they're idiots. Santa? Santa Claus. They're all idiots. And they lie, and they're morons, and they hate me. Objection counter X plus 1. Exactly, Jackster. And the objection is always worth yelling out, because it can turn the tide, and gusts of wind come from the wrist. Objection! Well, juror number 2. Juror number 6. My, whatever do you mean, sir? ... Pff. It's called Brit, not Idi, Anyway. Cretins? Bellends? Something? I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you. Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There's at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books, and my books, and their books, and purchased a number of second-hand titles. Oh, speaking of books, I just started finally reading the Witcher books. I feel like I'm gonna try finishing them. Maybe I'll manage. I'm a terrible reader. I'm really slow. It's really hard for me, but I feel like I have to try. Witcher is so good as a game series, and I gotta just get all of it, you know? And then we returned home on foot. But the man says he has no recollection of his return journey. Loved books, slow reader too. Yeah. That's correct. But what he does remember is seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in a green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes. Yes, we are all aware of this. The poor young woman who was stabbed, obviously. Objection! Can we really be sure of that, madam? My, whatever do you mean? I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood. And he was in cahoots with the neighborhood. Oh my. My goodness, you mean... Yes, that's right. I'm referring, of course, to hard of hearing juror number 6. Hell yeah, let's do this. Victory to the Horde! Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat from whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes was a jolly old gentleman on the end of the bench here with me today? Yeah. That's entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim. Well, look at that. Same hat, too. My goodness me. Sorry, you mean a P? Alright. And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell. And fell from grace as well at the same time. On Calabash Road. Just next to Cahoots Street. Yes. Or Cahoots Alley. Therefore, if the person who Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home. Oh my! See? We're getting through this. You idiot, old man. If you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming around there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago. And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat? What did you say to me? Is it a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days? Is it a crime to slip over on the ice? I'd need to check the law books of 1890s London, so I'll get back to you on that. It very well might be. Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat, is it? The jury is out on that one, I believe. Alrighty. Style crimes, yeah. Exactly. Thinking great minds alike again. My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but you'd like to change your leaning, I presume? I do declare that I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty. Thank you. And I would too. What? Is it a crime to change your mind? Is it? Well, depends what you change it into and in what context. If you change your mind in the sense of, I changed my mind, I have to murder, then that, yes. I believe that is a crime, yes. Just saying. See? We're pulling through. It's gonna be fine. Exclamation fine. Depends on if it's before or after the conviction. I don't see that. Sure, yeah. Why not, right? Although I'm wondering if it's a crime still then, or just like, you know, indecisiveness. But so it is. Well, that summation examination has concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The eyes 2, the nose 4, and the jaws... what? Jaws the Revenge, maybe? That's a very complicated and weird joke. See, eyes, and the nose, and then Jaws, and there's multiple Jaws movies, and the fourth one is the Jaws the Revenge, I think. Exclamation fine. Exactly. Beadora is on the ball. Like she knows. Yes. knows what's up. Which means we no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue. Hell yeah.
Objection!
Objection! You just drink your wine, I'll just get a not guilty verdict and we'll be all good, yeah? Cool. I'm glad we agree. Could it seem churlish of me to drink from my hallowed chalice moments after raising an objection? Yes. Hot Dracula. I like his look. I like his style. I hope he has an arc of integrity as a prosecutor, like Edgeworth did. He has some bigotry in him. Maybe not as much as jury number 2, the lady, but still some. But, you know, that's just what the game does here. I like most of what he does, though. And I think he has an excellent look. So, you know. Only to crush it in disgust? Pray forgive the discourtesy. Well, maybe this one time, because you're so stylish, yes. Lord Van Zeeks? It seems I must retract my earlier remark. What do you mean? I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. Oh, I don't. Hey, we're on the same boat here. Me and Van Zeeks, same boat. Going fishing, same boat. Just put the fuel into the motor and then just like fishing in the same boat, doobly, and we're on the same boat and having a good vacation on the lake. Me and Bro Van Zeeks. Hell yeah, because we agree on this point. Calling them insightful, mistake 1. Yep, wanna come over and drink tea from the skulls of our enemies? I'm free. Yet we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer. No. Eastern lawyer. Northern... See, I think entertainer would be a little bit pushing it in my case. So I'm gonna say Northern wannabe entertainer is here, but I'm playing as an Eastern lawyer, though. Yes, I think that's how it goes. Huh? Whatever do you mean?
Objection!
Objection! As Finn, you're an Eastern entertainer from me. That's true. That's true. Slightly Eastern. But also very north from almost anyone, though. Although I don't remember, but still, true. I haven't tricked anyone, everything I've said is the truth. Indeed, stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement which you had excavated, sir. That's right, took me the whole day and they paid me a measly 2pence for it. Now, my learned Nipponese friend, tell me. No niin, ei muuta kuin voittomielessä kohti suurta syyttömän tuomiota ja niin kuin ihan helvetillisen niin kuin suuri hymy sielussa kohti ääretöntä ja sen yli, koska voihan elämän kevät ja jukran pujut, kerta kaikkisensa, kyllä näin. Että voihan, kyllä näin, juuri näin, Jackster, täsmälleen näin. Ja voi helvetti, mä haluun tommosen viitan, koska ois ihan helvetin päheä meininki. Silleen, come on. Kylille toi päällä, niin tulis silleen niinku kyllä karisma vibaa, ois kova juttu, and back we go. So yeah, that's the channel point thing done, and I Thank you for activating a Jackster. Always a good time to do some sacred language. And everyone else, especially on YouTube, is just like, what the hell happened? Why? What's going on? I'm sorry. I'm weird, but it's gonna be fine. Do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents? 35, 40 centimeters, maybe? Like, a vague guess. If I'm honest, I don't have a clue, no. 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters. Oh! Sorry, well, I don't think in yards, I'm sorry. Oh, I was thinking of feet. Crap, sorry. Right, I was thinking of feet. Sorry. See, these imperial nonsense measurements, they're... Why is not everyone in the metric system? Why is half the world not correct on this one? Less than 2 meters? That's not much at all. A lady would not even step across 2 feet, and even a gentleman would have to trouble to overstep a yard, humps in Victorian. Yeah, absolutely. In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor. Why would they vault it? Carrying books of value to them. You can go do pole vaulting on your own time, Vanzeeks. Vanzeeks, the pole vaulter. You can go do that on your own time, yes. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no. What? And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works? Have been lurking in the shadows here and just couldn't unheard that thing about the cloak. That's so is the so. That could be true, yeah. Hey, I hope the lurking in the shadows has been insightful and fun. Needs a fabric though, but it's very doable. Oh, I believe you. I super believe you. That and a big top hat, like a cloak like that, and it's just like being all old school gothic mysterious with a top hat. I think I'd pull it off. Would a gentleman vault in his finest lever, or what it's called? No, I don't think so. Trench coat works too. Yeah, true. Look to die for. True, although hopefully we'll still be alive at the end of the look, though. Yes. I wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. No coaches would have had hope of passing anyway, and we just turn any gentlefolk back when they come. Kids just jump right over us all the time. The accused is no gentleman as far as I can see. Whoa! Banzeeks! Dude, come on. I realize you need to be a bit of an a-hole, but come on. Come on, my dude. My dude. My dude. I have a little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town. Why would he? And one would imagine at least that he might remember. Ah. Is that true, is it? The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume walked down Briar Road. No. No. Dude. Crushed in a single sentence. An old man. Cold man, you can talk. Is the books and receipt his or Mr. Greencloak's? I don't know. You say that at around 5 o'clock in the day in question you slipped and fell on the Calabash Road. So okay. The receipt... but this is in Natsume's room. Right? This series is the slow food of game. Especially this one, yeah. This is a very slow-paced game. But, you know, sometimes a slow burn is a good burn, right? Yeah, I don't know if I don't think we've established that these books are his. And I think the names of these books will come up there, because I think you might be onto something, Beadora. Those books have not been proven to be even the ones in this receipt. That's actually very true. I think that's gotta be the case. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking Nipponese behind you at the time? Oh, can't say as I remember. You don't remember? No one remembers anything! Mistrial! There's no proof of anything! How about a wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man the accused saw, but I would lay 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it. Also, you have not proven that my client did the crime. You haven't proven that my client was even there. You haven't proven that there was a motive. You haven't proven anything. Anything. Just saying, you know. There's your proof. Prove something to me, my dude. I think the prosecution is supposed to prove stuff. That's your job, Scarface. Come on. Proof. Come on. Just give proof. Yes. See, I should be doing Naruhodo's job, because my nerves would be just you know, calm as a cucumber. And I would just like, Van Zieks, my dude, you are wrong, and proof, and proof. Yes. The proof is in the pudding of proof. Yes. Order, order. Lord Van Zieks, explain yourself. My lord. If you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not prefer it during the Summation Examination? I don't think he can talk while during it, right? Van Zieks betting in court such court contempt. Yeah, he contempts, like, he throws his wine bottle, his chalice, all the time, everywhere, and even into the crowd. And he just puts his leg on the table like a barbarian. Barbarian. He's Conan the Barbarian Van Zieks, is what he is. Hearing the lamentation of the women. That's what he's doing. I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. No. Van Zieks himself, I remember this clear as day. In the last case, Van Zieks said that prosecution is not allowed to speak during the consummation examination, whatever it was. That's what he said then. Same thing applies here. Now he's lying. He is lying in court to everyone. The prosecution cannot be trusted. We need to appreciate that the prosecution is in cahoots with lies itself. Yes. No. That's not gonna work out. Ugh. But my hospitality has its limits. Actually, fun fact, hospitality means that a Mortal Kombat character finishes someone off with a hospital. like a fatality, but a hospitality. Ah, bum! There, like, Sub-Zero picks up a hospital and... Hospitality. I don't know what's wrong with me today, but I... sure. Oh boy. And they have been reached, I feel. Can I have the cape, please? So, my learned friend, the day's sightseeing tour of London is now over. What are you talking about? My lord. The prosecution requests permission to call its next witnesses to the stand. I've been waiting for you to do that, my dude, with your finger pointing of white gloves. More energetic than usual, maybe. I might be so tired that I'm like, you know, got, you know, on like over RPMs, you know. I just like, Jah! Granted, bailiff, bring forth the witnesses. Yeah, we apparently have witnesses that we haven't just gotten around to. I thought all of them were in the jury. Yeah, me too. Actually, they might be still. Like, it's gonna be the dude in the... you know, I don't know. Mr. Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there were eyewitnesses to the incident. I know, and I've been waiting for them to bring them to actually prove anything. Because I don't trust them, because I think they lie. Like dirty liars. Because they lie. Lies. Yes, I remember. One of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less. I'm afraid that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness. Alright, no matter who Van Zieks brings to the stand as his witnesses, and no matter what they say, I will cut them in twain with my katana. Yes. I believe in Soseki-san. I know he's innocent. I think he's innocent too, but more to the point, we need to just do good. Do well. And I'll keep believing to the very end, until this battle is over. That's a fine sentiment and all, but I think we should focus on actually finding the details that don't fit, believing whatever is, you know. Again, we've been over this before. If you adamantly believe that your client is innocent, like to a point of like he's clearly innocent. I believe to the very end. That could create a stress reaction in the lawyer, because the lawyer could be so afraid of his defendant, his or her defendant, going to jail as an innocent man or woman, you know? That stress and fear could then cause the lawyer to miss stuff, to do a worse job than a lawyer who just keeps a level head and focuses on giving the best possible defense to the client, regardless of what they did do, didn't do, believe, don't believe, whatever. With a policeman like that waiter? Yeah, maybe, who knows. Honestly, that's pretty close. Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. That's a very wide-eyed look with the lady there. Constable Rolly Beat. Rolly Beat. My mind is too not great in realizing puns, so cool. Nothing to report on the streets, sir. And I'm Mrs. Beat. Patricia's my name. I'm proud to say I'm this young town hero's wife. Uh-huh. What's the story here? Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary only the other day. No, it was your husband I was talking about. He seems tired. Hardly surprising. Whilst being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world. I don't know, have you been in African diamond mines? Like, you know, in... I don't know. I'm just... I don't I know there's plenty, but like not South Africa, because those are like at least not quite as bad. But like in the middle of Africa, diamond mines are probably the most demanding work in the world. Meaning a lot of people die doing that. Oh really? I'm sure I've heard that before actually. Indeed, apart from rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know? They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check that meter are reading true. Again, there are people in Africa who need to walk that much just to get water. Just saying. And they're responsible for keeping the streets clean and lighting and extinguishing our streetlights. I don't know, have you dug up a street in icy rain and then dug it back again for a tuppence? Yeah. There we are. There are a number of items on that list that don't sound much like policing duties at all. True. I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet, I'd have collapsed long ago. But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. Even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby is a man of honor. I don't know, they seemed quite racist though. And a man of slumber. On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beat? I think it's not correct. No, they are lying and they are in cahoots. That's right, sir. Isn't it, Rowley? ... Constable Roy Beats, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir. See? He saw nothing. The end. They can leave the stand. What a great witness he's going to be. Very good. I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident. Yes, sir. What the witnesses saw. It was our wedding anniversary and Rowley was taking me out for a meal. There was no time for change after work. To change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, then the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at the nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rowley and I both saw him clear as day. Well, this is extremely compelling testimony, I must say, and they're lying! You know better, Santa. You've seen how the court system works. The witnesses lie. The end. Every time. Almost no exceptions. A couple of times a police detective may tell one truth of about 5 or 6 sentences. And that's it. They always lie. Always. Santa, come on. I know you want to get back to building toys, but just come on, Santa. Just try for me. Try to think. Oh dear, this policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. If the testimony is true, the alternative course of events that you established in the Summation Examination will be quashed. It's death knell, in fact. Because that alternative was never viable in the first place. Oh, we'll see, my dude, we'll see. What an unfortunate bechancing. And on your wedding anniversary, too. Oh, I know. But I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. Thank the Lord for that. And also, why did you stab the victim? Just saying. Because you obviously did it. Probably. Gosh, the life of a London bobby sounds very hard indeed. Indeed, however. This cross-examination will be over in minutes. Well, you know, in like there's gonna be a number of minutes after it's over, and I'm gonna make it 40,000 minutes times 90 million minutes if I need to. Just saying. Like I'm gonna drag out this testimony, this court proceeding so long that my client will die of old age in the dock right there. And we will have therefore had a moral victory. Yes. My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. No, they're lying. It's very simple. They are testifying under oath. That just means that they commit perjury, and then you don't actually pursue their crime as perjurers. You know, they like that means nothing. That it was without doubt the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume. You are not correct. Under oath, yeah, but in Ace Attorney that means nothing. They lied. They lied. It's as simple as that. And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no less. So you appreciate the gravity of the situation. He was sleeping and he's lying. Come on. Except that the man's so tired, his wife has to do all the talking. Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense, commence the cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord Santa Claus. Alright, let's do this. Wedding anniversary, and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work.
Hold it!
Hold it! No time to change after work, you say. Are you also a member of the police, Mr. Speed? Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply. Well, I mean, children, sure, but oh well. Well, I think you can probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can't you? I think Rolly looks even ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down to the ground, doesn't it, darling? Are you sure you own the uniform? Because that hat looks like it's not standard issue anymore. What? I just finished my beat. Can you feel the beat? Is my question though. Like, if you really up the bass, can you feel the beat? That is the question for the court, I think. Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there. Changed to a different person? Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy. Creepy! Oh no, Rolly, I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes. Oh boy. Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy. Oh yeah, nothing about this is healthy. Susato, like, it's all unhealthy, right down to the justice system itself. A jury, what will they think of next? And a oh boy, you know. Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you had finished your beat for the day, correct? And then you felt the beat. That's right, yes. Although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. So you were feeling the beat on your feet. But policing is my life, sir, for better or for worse. As long as I am the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and my queen to the very end. Metropolitan Police Warrant Card. What's that now? My warrant card, sir, proved that I'm a London copper. But don't you want to be a London iron instead? It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. Sir, and for such a noble cause I cover 20 miles every single day without fail and without a grumble. Because I know that the plodding of my boots is all Londoners need to hear to feel they're safe and secure. So fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then. But sir, just on that one particular day I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot being married to a Bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold. I think it's all a cahoots. It's a cahoots, I tell you. If a little over the top, perhaps. And then, kindly describe what happened next. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared on out of the fog on the pavement in front of us.
Hold it!
Hold it! Two silhouettes? That's right. They were coming toward us, walking up the Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure, followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in his print, and like Mr. Natsume. Yes, unfortunately it does. And you're certain that at that time there was nobody else nearby? Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there are streetlights on Briar Road, you say. There was nobody else around at all, isn't that right, my darling? What? Yes, that's right. Of course, there was a light fog on the ground, but Briar Road is dead straight and you could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians. See, maybe you just missed the fact that there was a world-class knife thrower just outside of your field of vision. Yes. Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer please, Mr. Beat. Are you quite sure of what you've just said? Yes, so as a copper who spends all day every day keeping watch on the streets, I'd swear to it, sir. Random emote gave the same thing twice. Oh, wow. You know. But at least it's a really cool emote though. It's self-made too. I made all of that myself. I know it shows, but at least it's you know, at least it's mine, right? I am as sure as my love for Patricia is true. A kotimainen emote. Yeah, it has a joutsenmerkki. You know, as a psychological idea, at least. The idea of a joutsenmerkki somewhere in there, sure. Like a swan thing for a, you know, for domestic products. I'm sure as my love, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. You're in cahoots. Like they're already showing that they're in cahoots. I think I'm gonna crack this cahoots wide open. They're still maintaining there was no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. It's starting to seem like that must be how it really happened. Nope, lying. All lies. It's beginning to seem like there was nowhere to run. Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly. Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed? All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor. Then the other scattered something before running off.
Hold it!
Hold it! Scattered something. What do you mean by that? Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time, but then when we got closer we realized what it was. It was the residue of your cahoots! Objection! Yeah. Didn't we, darling? Objection! Your love is a front for murder! What? Yes, that's right. It was some old books. Scattered, you say? What are you... Hold on here. I see old books. Yes, sir, the culprit had dropped a number of them, all around where the victim lay on pavement. You said... They didn't seem like it dropped on the, you know... It's a frame job. It's a frame job! Indeed, as clearly as pictured in this photographic print. Maybe Sherlock Sholmes is the murderer. Maybe he tried to frame Natsume, because I would believe it from him. I think Sherlock Sholmes is the real mastermind murderer of the entire game. That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed. Indeed, deed.
Hold it!
That deed indeed. Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker, and also, I believe, there was again, a bigoted notion in there, so shish. But we saw him. No, you didn't, you're lying. Because the man in the dock without question said, nope, you're lying. The moustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose, and you're lying and being a bigoted liar on to boot. You should be put into a hangman's gallows from your ankle until you tell the truth. Any more insults you want to throw in? Yeah, I think that's, at some point, that's contempt of court, and then you can just, like, go in jail for a bit and wonder about your stuff. That's right, he looked down at that poor defenseless woman with those terrifying, intense eyes. No, you're lying. And then suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away. Wait, what? I see. Stuff. They seem as though they've been telling the truth here. No, they're lying. All lies. May I remind the court that this is unambiguous testimony, comes from a policeman and his wife. Yeah, policeman who sleeps on the job and a wife who lies. So, no. Now please, continue. They're all just in cahoots to commit murder with Sherlock Sholmes. Yes, sir. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at a nearby police box.
Hold it!
Hold it! Was it your husband who went to fetch help? No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling? What? Yes, that's right. I asked Mrs. Beat to go. Can she feel the beat when you ask her to go? I was off duty by that point. Sounds like she was already dead when he dropped the books. Seems like, yeah, and also just like the scattering and whatever of the books seems very like an odd wording too. Like almost deliberate. Deliberate scattering of the books by Herlock Sholmes to frame our defendant. I think that's like it's gonna all come back to the character assassination of Sherlock Holmes, the true evil of this game. But Bobby is never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene. So you could add some evidence that points us to the defendant, I'm sure. Very laudable, Mr. Beat. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance. That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box. Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box? As opposed to the left police box? Depends on a crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat, so you couldn't feel the beat, I see. So I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beats the incident fell under so she could go and report it. What the hell kind of sense does that make? I ran there as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There's nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know. I think that's probably just gonna mean that they waste time. That's what that means. And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved at the actions of 2 model citizens. Nah, they're just liars, my dude. Oh, please, you're making us blush with lies and with cahoots. Yes. Isn't he, darling? Yes, sir, what Patricia said, sir. Let's move on, shall we? It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rowley and I both saw him as clear as day.
Hold it!
Hold it! But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, could you? We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I have you know. No, you don't, and you're lying. Lying through your scarves and your deceitful blue eyes. Yes, it's all cahoots. Cahoots, I tell you. Right. The light from the street lamps was more than enough. No? And my husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he? Yes, and what of the fog? We're famous for it across the globe, I believe. But it's an absolute menace to those of us who have to live with it, of course. Oh, it is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm. Yes, alright, I take your point. Now, could you stop taking your husband about? The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. No, that's not how fog works, lady. Fog doesn't make you see better. I think you're misunderstanding the notion. That's why we can tell you for sure and certain that it was the little Japanese man we saw. Nope, liars. Lies! Can't be, darling, no. What? Yes, it was the accused and no mistake. Lies. The mustache, the hunched-backed cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose, unmistakable. As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. They're liars. It was Soseki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. Nope, lies. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? I think we should just arrest them for perjury, because they're obviously lying. Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they say they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day. Yes, I feel the same. So if that's true, where does it leave us? The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony. Oh no, then what do we do? We cut them in twain with a katana. If Kazuma-sama were here, he would cut them in twain with a katana. What are you trying to say? I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony. What do you mean somewhere else? Their statements about seeing Miss Natsume is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help. But if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate. Oh, right. Put simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in the statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion. Why do I always seem to be so up against it? Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? And the answer is not guilty. Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right, is it? Well, out with it. Yeah. I don't believe the testimony. It's all lies. I'm sure we've established this by now. I've been very open about this. Just lies, lies, lies. It's all lies, and we can take that to the bank, yes? Lies beyond lies beyond lies, and it all begets lies, and we can just go home and know you're all lying, and it's gonna be fine. Yes? Yes. My husband's a policeman, remember? I know what I saw. Nah, you just liar. Liar. Lies of the utmost lie. I remember every last detail, everything. Like lies. Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I could tell you the names of every single one. There you go! Wrong books, go for it. And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is? Yes. Tell me. Go for it, books. That will do, Miss Beat. No, it won't do at all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Well, you can yank a scarf like the best of them. Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Rolly will. I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please put your husband's fists down. Perhaps you would like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Beat? Capable of murder? Yes. Might that appease you? Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling? Go for it. Go for it, Grove. Go for it. Alright, let's go.
Hold it!
Hold it! Yes, we know that there were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say. Those purchased by the accused at the nearby second-hand bookshop on the day in question. After I'd been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. I'm a proud policeman's wife, after all, if I did for Rolly. And what was your husband doing at the time? Was he perhaps looking to plant more books? Oh, he was lying. Lying, yes, lying. There we are. He was lying. See? Getting some well-deserved rest. He works ever so hard, you know, ever so hard, don't you, my darling? Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime. Well, Mrs. Beat, seeing as you've regaled the court with tales of your powers of recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene? And they're gonna all be wrong, and we will make sure to let all of the world know that you are a lying liar who lies about books, and all of London will hear of your ability to constantly lie about books, like the liar of books you be. Yes, I think it's going to reflect quite severely on your... Yes, I'd be happy to. Now are you all listening? Received 3 books, yeah. There was the picture of Monsieur Somebody or Other and What's It Yearnings. Then there was a meal for someone, and the last one was definitely the Thingamy something. Uh-huh. You see? Right. Yes, I see there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory. Oh well, they were along those lines, I'm quite sure. There were indeed books found at the scene with titles along those lines, as you put it. Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling? No. The only thing we can agree on is that you are constantly lying and should be absolutely put on trial about the lies, and then we'll worry about the exact number of years that your sentence will be for those lies, and I think we can just then call it a day. Isn't that right? Anyone who upsets my Patricia also bringing a gun to the courtroom is probably against the law. Hi Clank, gotta go crashing down, but you have a good time solving the case. Thanks for the entertainment and see you next time. Hey, see you also next time and have an excellent night and excellent sleeps. And I hope all of the night goes well, and I hope tomorrow goes well for waking up and all that good stuff. And thank you for watching, Rosie. Who let that gun in court? I know. Also, Clank, I hope you've had an excellent day. Excellent day. But yeah, they need to take that gun away from the dude, and then we have to just look at this case all over again from the angle of he has a gun, and we need to arrest him for carrying a gun in court, and we need to therefore just yes. Even allow that in Texas, yeah, exactly, terrifying. Yes, she really is. You can take a gun into the legislature, but not the court. And if something's not allowed in the guns of Texas, it's probably not allowed anywhere in the world. That's a good rule of thumb, probably. Just careful with the amount of leeway with all of that stuff. Yes. God, dear. Yes, she really is. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony? What do you think, Miss Naruhodo? I think they're lying, and I think we need to just slice their minds open with the katana of destiny, and I think then we can probably just consider the case closed by means of a reality check to the face. Yes. I think that's how it's gonna go. Just the check of reality so hard to the face that they have no other choice than to accept the reality. Yes. Well, I hate to admit it, but I'm hearing testimony. Okay. Two silhouettes. I mean, I honestly don't know what else to do than just throw the receipt at them and see if it's the answer.
Objection!
Slice their minds open with the katana of destiny, so open air lobotomy, isn't that just murder? Well, I mean, but isn't that also murder if they try to lie their way through a testimony and send an innocent man to jail? I think we can sort of call it even Steven there, yeah? Right? Like we can just agree to call it even Steven on the on the murders and call it a day, yeah? I think we can just have that. Just this once, yeah? Fuck's sake. That's right, I remember all of them. No, I disagree. You remember nothing because lies beget lies. Yes, that is the reality of the day in question. Yes, I think we can all agree that it's all the creation of a mind of lies, and we need to just consider the implications of what that is. The picture of Monsieur Somebody, yeah. Talking about crows, I agree. There we go. I'm sorry, Mrs. Beat, but that just will not do. You need to remember every title to its full name and extent, so we can then agree that it's all fine. But there is a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours. Yes, the flaw being that you are a lying liar, and you need to no longer be allowed in this courtroom. Yes, what flaw? Yes, it is the flaw of lies. That is what that is. I feel we can call that the reality of the whole thing in question. Yes. Simply that. At the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4. What? This is a receipt from the bookshop where the defendant bought his books. Your books? Yes, my books, exactly. And they're mine, not yours. Yes, and it details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But as you can see, only 3 books are listed. Only 3? But no, that can't be! Yes, it can. I remember seeing them. There were just 4 books, I tell you, 4 dirty old books. Oh really? Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see from this evidence as well, there are only 3 books. But I just don't believe it. Not calling books dirty, yeah, I saw them there, I swear it, I saw them. No, Bantam, I'm afraid your powers of observation cannot be relied upon. Grrr. So it cannot be denied that lies, cahoots, that though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken. What is going on? Everything's going on. Also, why only one photo? One from another angle? I mean, a color...
Objection!
Even one color photo from the 1890s is pretty good. Just saying. Colored photo. It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nipponese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these 2 witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. The animation is pretty good, yeah. A fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. Ah! So you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. I see. Well, you are doing all of this with inconsequential notions of vague just testimonies and no evidence. So yeah, would that be fair? No, your case is flimsy and we should go home. Why is he drinking on the stand? Because he is a wine connoisseur, and he's also the Batman of wine connoisseurs. He sees right through me. Well, I mean, because you just need to be more confident. But your plan is somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. Can I have some cheese on my toast? To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect. A lot of lawyers are alcoholics. I wouldn't know, but that sounds about right. Oh. You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found.
Objection!
Butter and cinnamon toast. But what about the photographic print? It only shows 3 books. Quite right, only 3 can be seen in that print. That print? You mean to say that there's a secret book? And stop throwing the chalice. Allow me to present another one that shows the victim's hand, because now you want to show evidence all of a sudden. I don't believe it. The Lion's Pride. It's not on the receipt though. I think that's not ours. Also, why does it have a piece missing? It's the 4th book. Yep, I know. He's been yeeting glasses all day. I promise, it's a whole thing. I don't understand. That much I can say for sure. As you will observe, the 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso, and you should have presented the other photo as evidence, you cretin of no professional understanding of being a prosecutor. Come on, order. There you see? Look at that, look. Yes, I see, and it is not legal evidence, so stricken from the record and mistrial. Thanks, bye. It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling? Yes, sir, Patricia's always right, sir. Nope, I sincerely doubt that. Let us study the receipt for the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Mrs. Beat, the titles once again, if you please. Oh yes, of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or other. The picture of Monsieur Lecoq. I'm not sure if that book is gonna be safe for work. The picture of Monsieur Lecoq you might want to just check that no one's watching over your shoulder while you're looking at the pictures. What's it yearnings? Canterbury yearnings. A meal for someone. It is surely a purely anatomical work, yeah. Mike Cox of yore, yep. A meal for Gaburiot, in fact. As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. Nope. Those 2 statements are an oxymoron, Van Zeeks. Van Zeeks, it is an oxymoron. Yes, you need to stop. Mrs. Beat's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional. No. Game and movie titles, yeah. Did you hear that, Rolly? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia's flawless. Oh, boy. But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Mrs. Beat mentioned 4. There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly, the 4th book is that of which is shown in this photographic print. I'm sorry, counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? It's not odd at all, my lord. It's the other book. It's the lady's book. I bet Bobby's brother is the guy in the jury. Yeah, probably. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. The victim was holding her own book? People are allowed to hold their own books? I wonder, what became of that 4th book? Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. Does it not have the piece missing? It's a different book. It's false evidence. You will submit that and the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, counsel. My pleasure, my lord. The second crime scene photograph. Taken policeman just after the incident typically shows the victim's hand. A book entitled The Lion's Pride discovered in the victim's hand at the scene. I don't like this. It looks wrong. The prosecution rests. Yeah, you take a big long rest and I'll crack the case while you're resting. Because look at a second, like this entire hole here. This, yeah? Book. Oh. Okay, so what's with this? Talk to me about this. Oh, look at this. The book's been badly burnt. You're right, you'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the latter pages. What a terrible waste. Did this just not swallow the prosecutor's nonsense? I don't know. At least the judge tried to push back at the very beginning, which immediately makes the judge a little more sensible than the one in the mainline games. Judging from the scorched edges of paper, but I mean the judge, you know, is a spry judge because, you know, he's gotta once a year, you know, fly on a reindeer sled to visit every chimney in the world, you know. So he does a really sprinty cardio once a year, so his mind still works because, you know, the blood circulation goes all the way up to the brain, probably. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently. A book. Recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag? Yeah, what about the Garadin household and the fire? Maybe the book is from there. Yeah, I don't see anything else. Yeah, the Lion's Pride. Yeah, it's from the... yeah. Let me see. It's a book entitled The Lion's Pride. I'm afraid I don't know any English literature at all, so it wouldn't be something I've heard. Wait a minute. The Lion's Pride? That's strange. I think I have heard of a book by that name before, and very recently too. It's a title I recognize too, Mr. Naruhodo. Yeah, there we are. Now we're getting somewhere. That is gonna be our way forward in the case. I have nothing further to add. Oh, don't worry, I'll add everything else. What? You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. He called me friend, though. I think we're friends. I've made my first friend in London. Woo! Awesome. The spurious longer route to the accused's lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination, and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination... Futile? I walked right into this. No, we've been running away from it, it's fine. You see, everything we have said is true. Nope, all lies. Sorry. Isn't that right, my darling? Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat. Aren't they already married? So perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Listen. The only thing that can be called a Nipponese travesty is the Olympics with too much COVID, and that's it. You know? Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already? Everything they said was true, but none of it proved that the Japanese killed anyone. Yeah. And, I mean, I've said all along that the prosecution has no evidence and no case. So, you know. You've heard all of the witnesses and seen all of the evidence. There is no evidence. None, my dude. None. This trial has run its course. The only thing you have proven is that maybe the defendant got scared by a stabbing and then ran away. That's it. And even that's a maybe. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we are in a terribly precarious position. I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. No. Fight back the right way. Grab the katana and let's go. Think, Runosuke. Think. What do you do now? Safety save. I don't know, like, it's obvious, like, they have such a nonsense case that it's really hard to even pinpoint where to begin what the game wants from me. I know in the mainline game, sometimes waiting and seeing is the correct option, but we can try to raise an objection and see if the game will accept anything.
Objection!
Objection! I'm not done yet. No, my learned friend, it's over. The last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There is no more room for debate. Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but... I have a but. I can't think of what to say. If I may, Lord Banzix. What, the one before that new evidence you pulled out? Yeah. It seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point. Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. For a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this. Oh! How dare you! I am, to my shame, the law! Still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable. Mr. Naruhodo! Santa Claus approves. One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance, so the court will hear you, madam. Tolerance, huh? Yeah, we've a lot of tolerance you've shown. Go ahead, Mr. Sato, please. Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see it fit to pursue further? Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished. I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you? Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? More safety saves, because I have no idea. Like, I say that I would be allowed to have a recess to at least look at the evidence, but who the hell knows? Ace Attorney is not quite like that. It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. The crucial piece of evidence is the profile of me, because I have character, and that means that the defendant is innocent, yes. So we must make this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible. Yes, I understand, and thank you, Mr. Sato. This is it. Susato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let it go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord. Safety save. Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case and has hitherto been overlooked. The book. Oh, the tip is broken. Interesting. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just at the tip. A small piece of the plate appears to be missing. You're right. Well spotted, Mr. Sato. I spotted it! I wonder what could have happened to it. Yes. You don't think it could still be lodged in the victim, do you? Oh dear, I do hope not. That sounds terribly painful. Alright. Alrighty. That looks like it's okay. I'm gonna say the book. I don't...
Take that!
What else can I do? The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
Objection! We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than being a book that is all of lies, other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it, because we haven't tried yet. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know. Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist that you elaborate, counsel. You will identify this clue at once. Do I make myself clear? Oh, yes, my lord. It's, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence, which means you may very well be on the right track. Yes, I think you might be right. So, counsel, precisely where is the vital clue to this case which this fourth book conceals? It is, hopefully, this thing.
Got it!
Got it! I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question. The back? What do you... Good gracious! It's been burnt to a crisp. It's just like marshmallows on my Christmas. Marshmallows. So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Objection!
Objection! Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nipponese friend? Oh, he called me a friend again! We've made friends! Woo! Were I to concede the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. So should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day, pray do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide? A charred book. There's just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory. Don't keep us waiting any longer then, Council. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage this tome has suffered? I can ascertain that I need a safety save. Owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth about the book's owner. I beg your pardon, but we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand and she fell to the floor after all. It's obvious. Why did they keep saying floor? It's ground. It's obviously hers. The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand has yet to be answered. However, as to the questions of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers. Good gracious, how can you possibly? Very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial, so tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book? Joan Garideb. Well, John really, but point being, the lady is in the jury. But I guess John would own it because he's the one who had the lion doobly-doo.
Take that!
Take that! The answer is that the book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garideb. The landlords? And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know, but of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garideb herself. Oh my goodness, me? Yes, and now you need to actually be truthful about your identity, and also, because you were not truthful about your identity, you need to be thrown out of the jury. Since you're the one who keeps calling guilty, you need to be thrown out, right now. I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Garideb's wife, I'm his maid. Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garideb's house? I would never presume to know all of the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
Objection! This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused's landlady, you say. You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Her ring is the evidence, my dude. Your actions are unforgivable. My actions are of the truth. Objection. This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garideb's house. Good lord, what sort of incident, counsel? A fire, my lord. Afraid to say it was, happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke, couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course, the bally furniture started going up as well. Worst of it is, I lost my favorite, a book called The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride. By Jove, the very same title as the subject of this debate. Oh dear me.
Objection!
Objection! This is risible. It's all sorts of shenanigans. All you've told the court that a book by the same name was involved in a fire. Also fire marks and the same name book. Come on, boy. Come on, old boy. In which case, it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. No. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime. Nah, the lady didn't like the book and just threw it out, I think. Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garadeb was considerably enraged. Speaking of, join my Discord! Yes, haha, it's a segue. But yes, join Discord if you wanna, and follow me on the Instagrams and YouTubes and Twitters, so hell yeah. Also, I'm a YouTube partner now. I'm a YouTube partner, woo! I made partner on YouTube! It took a long time, but I'm a partner on YouTube, so if you wanna, you know, help me by just watching my videos, now it's possible if you want to. It would mean the world to me. Hell yeah! You know, I have ads on there now. You know, that's how it rolls. Go see. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garadeb was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garadeb even amid the flames. Oh, how awful! I can't even imagine being so horrid to the one you love, can you, Roly? Absolutely not. Sir, my Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir. Just yanks on your scarf all the time. Had all my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. Then the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, back up against the window under heavy enemy fire, incendiary books incoming 10 to the dozen. There we are. Yeah, only strangled you into submission, exactly. The man had his back up against the window and he had burning books thrown at him. Goodness gracious, are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
Objection! No, a thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident, and there is no report of the Garadeb's window pane being broken. No, it's open. That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garadeb's household. But is it not conceivable that the window was open at the time in... Not even remotely! Smoke, my dude. Van Zeeks. Smoke. They opened the window because of smoke. Let's not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it. Smoke. Van Zeeks, you're smarter than this. Think under your scar. Smoke. 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 Smoke wins. Fatality. Yes. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Except in fire. Fire. Does the defense postulate this scenario in all seriousness, counsel? Yes. Do you earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garadeb's wife? Yes. Alcohol kills brain cells. That's true. I believe it's a possibility, my lord. My lord Santa. Believe me, Santa. Santa, I believe in you, therefore you must believe in me as well. That's the deal. Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward. Really? Claiming that our little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight, honestly, and now you admitted that you are the wife. Boom. Implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. How could you? It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully your family's name. No, I assure you, that was never my intention. Although I would like to add some sullying to it because you are lying as a member of the jury. I'm pretty sure that goes against some sort of laws and regulations, and you should probably spend a couple of hot, cold nights in jail. Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud simply to divert attention from your failing defense? Nah, I simply told the truth, which you should too, and then go in jail. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable. Too right. Here we go. How long have we sat here now listening to this Nipponese spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim... No, we haven't proven anything about who could have done it and why. You have flimsy, vague, oh, we saw it because my husband was sleeping. Like, what? Yes, we clearly saw the face because my husband was sleeping on his feet and I left. Okay, cool. Thanks. Is that little hunchback with the mustache, and he ran away from the scene too. I do declare you're right. It's true. Yes, what did I tell you? Well, you, lady, need to be put in jail. That's what we tell you. Makes sense to me. Sorry. What's that? Well, it would appear that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zieks? In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. I kind of do agree, though. This is a very, very long proceeding. I know there's 3 parts to this trial, and we're still on the first one, 4 hours in. Come on. But then one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage. Not this much. No, wait. The mystery of the 4th book still hasn't been... See? Food on the table. If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time. In truth, my lord, who needs these proceedings when I get provision on how many people I put in jail? Yeah. Sure seems like. What? No, forgive the discourtesy this time? In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty.
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 I'm pretty sure it wasn't on balance last time around. I think that's a bit of a continuity mistake. Thank you for that unambiguous response. That's twice now. It's over. Now I can do it again. Consummation examination. Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up. Mr. Sato, have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet. You're not suggesting... Of course. The defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You could still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance. My Lord Santa Claus, the defense asks for the exercises its right to a summation examination. You believe you still have the tricks up your sleeve. I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. To be continued. Boom, there we are. So indeed, if you have been watching this on YouTube, I hope you've had an excellent time watching, and it would mean the world to me if you would like to if you would feel like dropping a like, because it would just help, these videos be seen. And if you want to see more, just please do subscribe. It would mean the world for me as well, and really make my day, I promise. And I hopefully I'll see you again on the next part of this case. Have a good one, and bye-bye.